Welcome to episode 1 of the MMA Bros, where your hosts Phil and Scott will break down all the action of UFC 297 this weekend. Alright, let's kick this off. What's going on, bro?
Not much, mate. Just got up. Looking forward to some fights tomorrow.
Birdie told me you had a dusty night. Feeling a bit dusty?
Yes, had a big night last night. It was unintended, but it got a little bit out of hand. So I was up.
The best ones, aren't
How about you? What's going on?
they? Mate, we're here to talk about some fights. So, big event coming up this week, UFC 297. Headlined by Psycho Sean Strickland and South African Dricus du Plessis. Fair bit riding on this card. Let's get.
It's a middleweight belt, right?
Well, that's true. It's a pretty big fight, I guess. Did you get a chance to watch the press conference?
I did. I watched parts of it. I didn't tune into every last second, but I did watch it, and it was interesting. I thought that Sean Strickland, he's really becoming quite talented at working a crowd.
Yeah, he seemed also to be unusually friendly towards Dricus. I mean, compared to how he was with, Israel and other opponents.
Yeah, a lot more respectful. Yeah.
Yeah, it almost looked like Dricus was a little bit uncomfortable with how polite Sean was being.
Yeah, and I think too, I mean, even when he, got up and shook his hand and made a deal that it was going to be to the death, I think probably for anyone facing Sean Strickland, he's quite a formidable opponent, but he's also a little bit unhinged, and that's got to play on your mind as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how he's got as far as he's gotten. Sean Strickland seems to be just with brute force, just walking forward and gassing out his opponents. I mean, I don't understand this. I mean, I don't have a background in fighting. Obviously, I just watch a lot of fights, but his technique that what do they call it? The Philly shell.
Philly shell. Yeah.
Is, like, what's the point of protecting your chest, mate? Like, you're gonna get fucking punched in the head, right?
Hmm.
You know,
Well, I'm not super familiar with the Philly shell either, but as my understanding is, it's not so much protecting your chest. He's using his shoulders to roll and basically bounce the punches, so that when the punches come in, you're hitting his shoulder before you're connecting with his head or his body. Like
didn't work too good against Ferreira.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's Pereira's. He's a world championship level kickboxer, so I'm not surprised it didn't work against him. It was good though that he went and trained with Alex after that.
Yeah, and I thought Ferreira in the crowd at the press conference as well. So,
Hmm.
and he's obviously out of that division now, so he's not in contention. Indricus, I think he's. I mean, he was pretty impressive against Rob Whittaker, wasn't he?
He certainly was. Yeah, he's looked like a pretty unstoppable force, Tricus. He's looked really good against a number of really good opponents.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to, even when the tide's going against him, he just sort of hangs in there and just outlasts his opponent. Just seems to have undeniable mental toughness. Is that the same thing with Sean as well? Yeah.
Well, Sean's not going to quit, that's for sure. He's in terms of mental toughness, I don't see too many being tougher than Sean Strickland.
Yeah. I mean, both these guys almost seem like you need to put them out to stop them.
Hmm.
I mean, Sean's last fight was quite interesting. I know we've previously talked about Israel's performance, and maybe, I've speculated on reasons why I thought it might have been a bit subpar. It's come to light that, he's got a drink driving charge that was, unresolved at the point of his last fight. And since then, he hasn't taken a fight, and, consequences on the line. I think maybe that played into part of his poor performance. I know you probably have a different view on that.
I just think there's a lot of different factors that go into a fight, and whilst that might have been a factor, I just don't think that was really, I don't think that was the deciding factor. I doubt that something. To me, it didn't really look that significant. He was pulled over, I think, for a random breath test in New Zealand. I believe he returned a value of 0.08%, which is I don't know what the laws are over there, but here obviously it's 0.05 is the blood alcohol concentration that's considered the legal limit. So he was over the limit, but he wasn't high range. I don't think that he was legitimately facing jail time, um, and he has the means by which to get proper representation and get the best outcome for himself. So whilst this was embarrassing, it probably cost him a lot in terms of sponsorship potentially. Um, I don't know if it really had any impact on his athletic performance in a fight that happened before he even had to go to court.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know unless you're in that situation. So
For sure, yeah, no,
it may have impacted him. I mean, the thing is, he lost the fight, and then he's taken a break, scheduled another fight. So
I agree, but to me that seems. I mean, again, there's a number of reasons. His entire career, putting that on pause. I don't know if that decision came down to this one incident. There's so many other factors I would imagine for a guy like Israel Adesanya.
we pulled that previously, has he? So
No, but again, it's just I feel like you're just picking one thing and suggesting that that's responsible for a very big differential, and I don't know if it's significant enough. But interestingly, I heard recently, and perhaps you can tell me more, but Israel Adesanya, who had you mentioned that he'd put his career on hold, or he's not taken another fight. He'd actually mentioned taking a long break. He's now said that he's coming back sooner rather than later. Is that true?
I don't know if that's true. I mean, that whole division's interesting. You've got, Jared Cannonier, who hasn't went over Sean Strickland. He's probably next in line. I don't think anyone wants to see Sean Strickland versus Israel based on the last fight again.
You don't think they'd want to see a rematch?
I don't think it was the most exciting fight.
Oh, I agree, but I mean, you've got the fact that it's the only guy who's beaten Israel Adesanya at middleweight. Well, ignoring Alex Pereira, who's obviously left the division now. But I think it's got value just in the fact that it's a rematch of a. You're right. The original fight wasn't super entertaining, but I don't think that doesn't mean that if Sean Strickland goes out there and lights up Dracus Duplessis, and then Israel Adesanya were to come back, I think he could walk straight into a title fight with Sean Strickland.
Yeah, just not sure the UFC would want to book that. But in saying that, who knows? Who knows? Israel's a popular fighter.
Israel's the most highly paid fighter. He's their biggest star.
Yeah.
Okay. So if Israel's coming back, what fight are you going to offer that Israel's going to accept? Because keep in mind, it's not just the UFC. Israel has some power in this negotiation as well. What are you going to offer Israel Adesanya to come back at middleweight? That's going to be enticing enough to him. It's going to be a bigger draw than him versus Strickland, and that's going to be acceptable to both parties.
Well, I guess maybe the question is, does he come back at middleweight or does he take on Pereira at light heavyweight?
Okay, well we can speculate. Okay, but assuming that he's coming back at middleweight, because the question is he going to fight Sean Strickland? It's going to be at middleweight, presumably for the belt, or he's going to fight someone else at middleweight. So who else are you going to pit him against?
Well, I guess I'm saying I don't think he's.
So you don't think okay. So you don't think he comes back at middleweight?
Unless Dricus wins. I think that's, if Dricus wins, I think
Right.
more likely to come back at middleweight. There's just a little bit of tension in that fight, although I wasn't overly impressed with the way Israel was building that fight with Dricus, uh, you know, in the post fight. After
How do you mean?
Oh well, he was using the N word a lot.
Are you talking about when he got in the cage and
Yeah,
started throwing the N word? Yeah, but keep in mind, Phil, he did have a drink driving conviction that was obviously weighing quite heavily on him.
ha 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 ha. All right. Well, we're looking a little bit too far into the future here, so maybe let's just focus.
Okay, yeah.
Right. So, who do you think wins, and how do you think they get it done?
Look, I think I'm going to have to go with Sean Strickland. I think potentially if he can disable Drakus or discourage Drakus from takedowns by taking out the legs with leg kicks, um, but and then just does his thing on the feet, does what he does to everyone on the feet, makes them fight at a very high pace. Drakus, I think, I heard this in the press conference. I think someone's talked about cardio, and he said he referenced a fight where he had lost the first round and then won the second and third round. But this is a 5 round fight, and you're going against a guy, Sean Strickland, who can fight a 5 round fight. I think there's a question mark over Drakus's cardio potentially, and that if it gets into the later rounds, it could be problematic for him. Has he fought a 5 rounder before, Drakus?
Yeah, I believe he's fought one 5 rounder before. I could be wrong on that, but just I do have UFC stats open.
So the Whitaker fight was a title eliminator, so I assume that was probably a 5 rounder, but it only went two.
Yeah, so
Looking through his record, he's never fought more than 3 rounds.
yeah,
He's never fought, even if he's been in a 5 round fight, he hasn't fought more than 3 rounds.
there has been I mean, it's well known that Drukas had a nose issue that apparently impeded his breathing that he had corrected prior to the Whitaker fight. Obviously, that fight didn't go long enough to really see whether that was a defining factor or not. But I've seen Drukas look dead tired in fights, but not slow down.
But keep going, yeah.
No, good point. So I'm not sure that's going to be the factor.
So how do you see it?
I think Drukas will win. I think I think Strickland will come forward. He's very hittable, and I think he'll get hit enough. And one of those shots is going to put him out. I just don't think he's, Sean. At this level, you need a good defense, and I know. I just don't buy into that. His defense is gonna be effective in this fight against Drukas. Sean might decide to take the fight down, but if you listen to him in the press conference, he says he's gonna stand and bang.
But you're talking about a guy who stood in front of Israel Adesanya for 5 rounds and was able to defend himself. You're talking about one of the best strikers in the UFC.
On that night, he was one of the best strikers on that night. He got put down in the first round and really didn't fire a shot after that.
Yeah, I still think that Israel Adesanya on a bad day is better than 99% of the fighters in the world. I think that he's an elite level striker. That's his thing, and he could not hit Strickland.
Yeah, I just don't think that was the Israel that
So you don't
really fights.
I don't disagree with that, but I don't think it was like Israel just didn't turn up at all. But anyway, so you don't think so you think Drakus will get it done, but you think he's going to get it done with striking. You don't think that his wrestling might be a factor?
Sean versus
Drakus.
Look, I mean Brunson handled him pretty easily. Got him down to the first round and was dominating him. So I'm not sure his wrestling's that going to be that superior to Strickland's. I think Strickland's, a known strength of his is wrestling. So I think if anyone's going to wrestle, it'll probably be Sean. But I just don't see. I just think Drukas is little. Rob, no one's made Rob look like that other than Israel. And yeah, I just think he's going to be too much. That's my view. I could be wrong. But we've got a disagreement there. So let's see who's right. My prediction is Drukas by knockout.
Okay, I've got Sean Strickland, by KO or TKO. Yeah.
All right. Who's next? Let's look at the co-main events. We've got the women in the co-main events. Raquel Pennington versus Silva. Well, look, Raquel's been around for a long time. It's funny with the women's division. Like a lot of the high elite women, they have a lot of losses on their records, and it seems to be a lot of these fights seem to be really blowouts. Women's division, and I think Silva's gonna be too much for Raquel. What do you think about this fight?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I do. I think the Brazilian Bueno Silva is going to get it done. I would say I'm going to say decision on that one. I think.
Yeah, this is
I think Raquel's going to be pretty difficult for her to submit. Raquel's obviously been doing it a very long time. It's not her first rodeo. She's going to be crafty. She's going to be difficult to submit. Probably be a good test, but probably Bueno Silva gets it done over the 3 rounds. It's 3 or 5.
that's five. The bottom five.
5. Okay. Okay. Ooh. Maybe not a decision then. Maybe she does. Maybe across the 5 rounds she can submit her. Um, yeah, I'll go Bueno Silva by submission on that.
Yeah, the odds makers have it. Have Raquel's at plus 140 and Silver is a minus 166.
So it's not a crazy odds. They're not she's not a huge favorite or underdog.
Yeah, well, Raquel's fought basically, I think, all former champions other than Rousey that division. Like, she has a lot of success against them, but it's
Yeah, she's coming off 5 straight wins though.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That division, I think it lacks champions vacated. Um, all right, let's move on to the next one. So we've got Neil Magny versus Mike Mallet, Canadian.
So this seems to be a bit of a classic sort of new kid on the block coming in against Neil Magny, who's at this stage in his career probably considered a gatekeeper. Um, would you agree?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, very much.
I mean, he's been around a long time. He's a very proficient fighter. He's had some very big wins across his career, but he's gone win loss across his past 6, 7 fights. So he's not, he's realistically not looking at title contention anytime soon. And then you've got the young Canadian who's come through. Looks like the Dana White Contender Series. He's had a win over Mickey Gore. Um, and then a couple of submissions after that. So,
Yeah, look, yeah.
how do you see it?
Well, I see one guy on the way up and maybe one guy on the way down. Although Neil Magny he's still consistent. He's still a consistent performer. He really is going to be the audit, right? He's gonna audit Mike Mallet, and we'll just see whether Mike has got his receipts in order.
Mm.
And I mean, he's a local. Apparently, he lives in the area, so spoke in the press conference about that. So there'll be some familiarity to him rocking up that.
Well, yeah,
But Neil Magny's a professional, and I don't think that's gonna be it's gonna be an advantage in any way. But yeah.
I'm pretty sure Neil Magny, if I'm remembering correctly, he's done this kind of thing before where he fought Gilbert Burns in Brazil. That's who I'm thinking of. To take a fight where you're going to fight a dangerous fighter like Gilbert Burns, in his home country of Brazil, that's got to be pretty daunting. Now, obviously, he didn't win that fight, but that experience, I think, will help him when he's facing Mike Mallow in Canada. He's going to be used to having that, being on someone else's home territory.
Stats look pretty even. Strikes landed per minute, significant strikes. They seem to absorb the same. The defense is pretty much similar. When it comes to grappling, they're all pretty similar. So on paper, it looks like a fairly even matchup.
When you say their strikes are even, what are you referencing there?
Oh, just
their strike rate,
strike rate, land per minute, strikes land per minute, significant strike percentages. So how many strikes they absorb per minute? All pretty 2.4 for Neil Magny, just over 3 for Mike. And then defense percentage is 53% for Magny and 56% for Mallet. So
I would argue it's more impressive if they're on par. It's more Neil's figures are more impressive because the guys that he's fought. I mean, for one, if you're looking at average strike rate and stuff like that, Neil Magny, you're talking about what 20 plus fights in the UFC. So you spread that average across 20 fights and some really big names. Whereas for Malone, he's he's had a handful of fights in the UFC against not like the same level of competition. So I don't know if those stats are really comparable, or if they are equivalent, then it's more impressive for Neil Magny, right?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, I'd agree with that for sure. But like I said before, you can only fight who's been put in front of you. So
That's true. Yep. Yeah.
we'll see if one guy's on the way up and one guy's
So what's your prediction for that fight?
uh I've been burned by Neil Magny lately. What's his most recent fights? I feel like he's cost
He
me.
lost to Ian Machado Gary recently.
Yeah.
I love how your prediction is based on how emotionally hurt you were by the last betting choice.
Yeah, well, that's right. That's exactly how I live in. It cost me money. I remember. Um, yeah. Look, I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna say Mike. I'm gonna say Mike's gonna get it done. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's your prediction?
I'll go decision.
Okay.
What about you?
Look, I'm going to be really boring and follow suit on this. I think that Mike gets it done. I could see the majority of his wins are coming by knockout or submission. However, I think that Neil Magny's just a tough dude. I don't know, and he's going to be quite resistant to getting choked. You know what? I reckon I'm actually going to go with Mike Malone, but I'm going to say he gets it done by submission. I'm going to reverse that. I'm going to say he tires Neil Magny out and then he submits him.
I'm him out.
Tires him out. Yep. Yep.
Okay. The 3 round fight.
Yeah, but Magny's getting older, and he has looked in a couple of fights like he's gassed. So I think, anyway, look, we'll see. I could be wrong. Maybe that'll be totally wrong, but I reckon he can tire him out and maybe get a late submission.
Okay. All right. Well, so far we've agreed on all the results. So let's see how we go with the next one. We've got a middleweight bout. We've got Chris Curtis versus I can't pronounce this guy's name. Mark Andre
Barrio,
Barrett. There you go. All right.
Marc-Andre Barrio, yeah.
All
Oh, well, and you just said we agreed on all the results. That's not the case, is it? The Sean Strickland Dracus one, we had a difference of opinion.
right. Okay. True. All right. I went through because you were sure. All right. The most important fight. All right. So let's go into this fight. Who do you like and why?
Okay, I'm just gonna have a quick squeeze at their records. Right, so I see Chris Curtis is coming off a loss and then a no contest due to a clash of heads. So, but in his 3 fights prior to that, he's gone loss, win, loss. So his record 30-10 now. Gosh, he's in an interesting spot in his career for me.
That no contest was like an eye poke, wasn't it? If I remember.
Head clash, I think.
Was
Isn't
it?
it? Accidental clash of heads, yeah.
All right.
Did it result in a cut? Maybe I don't.
Yeah. I think.
So and Mark Andre Barrio is coming off 2 wins, Julian Marquez and Eric Anders. So he's got a bit of momentum behind him potentially. Let's see, 6-1. He's 33. Chris Curtis, 36, 5'10". Yeah, look, it's going to be an interesting fight. I'm going to go with Marc Andre Barrier, but that's predominantly based on recent performances. And I'll say decision. I think when it comes to fighting Chris Curtis, it's going to be quite tricky to finish it.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Chris Curtis in this one. He's a pretty aggressive fighter. Um, he's had some pretty impressive performances. He's won over Buckley. But yeah, he doesn't exactly have a winning record in his last 5 fights, but he's probably coming closer towards the end of his career. But I think it is a bit of a step up for Mark Andre.
Barrier?
Yeah, I mean the average fight time pretty similar. Similar win loss percentage. Yeah, but I think if we go off that earlier measurement, I think Chris Curtis's record is probably slightly more impressive. The competition he's faced. At least that's my view anyway. All right. So the next fight, and the last fight on the main card, this is one I am very interested in actually.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty pumped for this one too. This one looks like it could be. It's got all the ingredients to make it a very very intriguing fight.
Yeah, Alan Arnold Allen, Englishman, very politely spoken, versus what you pronounce the Russian dude's name.
Movsar. I'll have a crack at it. Movsar Ivloev.
Oh,
Gosh.
that's about as well as I would have done saying
Magomedovich is
it.
his middle name. Jesus.
This is, to me,
Right.
this is the sleeper on the card. This is the one that really looks like it's got a lot of potential. Very high class fighters. Arnold Allen record 19-2 versus Nosfar, if I've said that right, 17-0. Guy.
Oh, their records, and yeah, and when you look at Arnold Allen's record, I mean, his losses have come. Well, one of them against Max Holloway, you can hardly hold him too accountable for that. That's a tough fight any day of the week. So Mobsar doesn't seem to have fought the same level of competition, but he has absolutely run through them by the looks of it. I'm kind of assuming, based on this, I haven't seen a lot of his fights, but based on this record of a lot of decisions, he's and the region of the world that he comes from, I'm assuming wrestling is his forte.
Yeah, all decision win, by the looks of it, average fight time 15 minutes.
Yeah. In the UFC, they have been, yeah. So, I mean, he's got some KOs and TKOs in his earlier career, but yeah, since he's joined the UFC, it's just all been decisions. Mm,
Yeah, I mean, if you take a look at his average takedowns per fight, 4.71 takedowns per fight for the Russian. So
yeah, right.
pretty high, 50% takedown accuracy. So he goes for them a lot. Um, okay, uh, which means he'd be attempting 10 takedowns a fight nearly. Takedown defense 71%. Man, yeah, as you said, you look at his record, and pretty impressive win against Eddie Gore. He's himself a pretty good fighter, so that's probably his most impressive win there on his record. Then you got Arnold Allen, good, really impressive win when he fought Hooker a few fights ago. When Hooker dropped down to featherweight,
Mm,
put him out, and then, as you said, his last fight against Holloway, which was really, I think at the time, the title eliminator. So he had a lot on the line there, and just got outpointed over 5 rounds. So what do you think happens in this fight?
look, it's potentially going to be a classic striker versus wrestler type matchup. And those usually tend to favor the wrestlers because, you know, if they can dictate where the fight's taking place, so I guess probably it hinges on whether Mobsar can get Arnold Allen down. I haven't I haven't seen enough of Arnold Allen's fighting to know how good he is at stopping takedowns. I know that he seems to prefer fighting on the feet. I'm going to go Mobsar by decision. I think he's going to take him down and grind him for 3 rounds.
Yeah, Allen's takedown defense is recorded at 76%, so it's not.
Yeah, but has he fought? I mean, I'm looking at the people he's fought, and I'm not seeing any standout names in terms of, you know, takedown artists. Um, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. So there is potential for this fight to end up with the Russian on top, just controlling. But the Russian doesn't exactly look like he's got a high percentage of submission attempts. I think it's 0.3 per fight. So yeah, it seems like he just gets the grounds and pounds.
Yeah, well, he's got 17 wins, 10 by decision, 3 by knockout, and 4 by submission. So he's got submissions, but like I said before, his KOs and his submissions were all prior to arriving at the UFC. So in arriving at the UFC, it's been nothing but decisions, and I think that could probably be accounted for by the jump up in competition.
Yeah, and these stats are just UFC. The ones I'm quoting anyway are just UFC related.
Yeah.
All right, so who's your tip?
Mobsar by decision.
Okay. I can understand where you're going there because typically a striker versus grappler, that's what happens. Well, I think in the modern era, high level strikers can be a little bit more elusive, and yeah, but as we saw with Khabib, like he's grappling made his striking look better.
Mm.
over time. So typically that can happen as well. So who knows? It could be a surprise. Alan could be so concerned about the grappling that yeah, he goes to defend the takedown and, that's a
Clipped.
gets clipped, yeah. Um, so that's a possibility. Um, but I like Alan, so I'm gonna go with who I'm emotionally invested with. Yeah, like, and that's the thing about, it's the modern fighter, right? It's like, it takes all types in the sport. You've got psychos like Strickland at one end, and then you've got gentlemen like Arnold Allen at the other. And yeah, I'd like to see him do well. Yeah, I've had my eye on him for a while, and I've thought he's a real title contender in the future. So I'd like to see him get his shot at some point, and he needs to win fights like this to get there. Another loss, back-to-back losses, is probably going to set him back. So, all right, that's all we have time for on this episode 1. Stay tuned. We'll check back in and see how our picks went. See you, bro.